We are back for the latest episode of Boardroom RevOps, where we're bringing you valuable tips from RevOps experts so you can make it to the C-suite. I'm James, co-founder of Accounting, the RevOps BI platform. Super excited to welcome Josh James today. Josh, great to have you.
Thanks, James. Love to give you a background. I've been doing some form of RevOps for the last at least 15 years, back when it was called Sales Ops, sometimes Go-to-Market Ops, now RevOps. Maybe it'll be something else next week.
Go-to-market engineer.
Yeah, we can talk about that one. I don't agree. That can be a position either in the RevOps team or you kick it over to marketing. They get to hold a number. And so definitely got to hear about that last week at a conference. So that was fun. But yeah, love RevOps, love being involved. Great to be here.
Awesome. Today will be kind of an interesting topic. So we're talking about just getting work done at a company as a RevOps lead, which kind of sounds ridiculous on its surface, but I think it's actually an important topic. Because, as folks progress in their RevOps career, start to have some authority or a heavy influence on how do we accomplish what the business needs to accomplish, you have a number of options. You can obviously build a team with full-time employees, you can hire consultancies or agencies, and then of course you can use tools to make it easier. So I want to chat through how you think about many of these things. So maybe starting with just building a team. When you join a new company or come on as a consultant, which I know you have done as well, how do you get the lay of the land of what the business needs?
So always the X amount of initial conversations for an interview, both from hey, do we actually want to do a consulting project with you? Or is the full-time role of you should at least get a good amount of information for understanding, one, what's going on in their go-to-market, how is it set up, what is the hiring manager worrying about? As you get more senior, you tend to deal with whoever is running sales or a CRO. And so they'll give you sometimes a laundry list. I have never been here's 2 priorities. This is all I want you to focus on. It's always the laundry list, and you go, great. I don't think we can solve all that immediately. So what do you actually want to do? And then that helps inform of, I've heard everything from, we have a really messy CRM. I go, okay, that could be who's doing that today. Oh, well, we kind of cobbled things together. We kind of had an admin and then they left. And so we don't know what we're doing. And I go, okay, that could be a agency contractor person to go, I want to do this. I would put the responsibility on my shoulders for what does this actually need? What's the strategy? But it's what does the business need? What's the actual go-to-market strategy? What are your processes? Instrument those into your whatever system it is. And the example is the CRM. And you go, okay, what's realistic? I've walked into these things and gone, wow, this is a complete mess at a DocuSign or other places where I've consulted, like a Splunk, and you go, oh, that's a 2-year transformation. I've done it enough to go, it's going to take 2 years to do this whole thing. What do we need to do? And flight it out for a roadmap. And that is both internally working there and as a consultant. It could also be, I need some capacity for doing X, Y, Z, but I don't need a full-time person. Maybe that's a better fit for either somebody's going to wear another hat and we're going to pull them off something. It could be, hey, agency might make sense here. What do we have for budget? Because the part that everybody loves on how do we solve this, and I go, well, I can get you people, but it's going to cost us money. So what's my budget? And what are you willing to not do and use that budget? And how important is this to you? And how quickly do you want it? The answer is always yesterday. I've never not heard well, yeah, no, we need this in 6 months. They're like, can we have this in the next 3 weeks? And I go, no, usually. I have to go figure this out. Or fair, I got to make sure we're clean enough on a forecast and set up a process. I can set up a process and get everybody moving toward it. In 3 weeks, it's going to be super ugly. And then we're going to take probably another 2 months to kind of get it going. On top of that, it's what can you actually manage yourself? So for people who are a little more junior in their career, of you grow into leadership, it is rare to be given here, take a team on. You should start managing people that you've never done before. So a way to start doing that is coaching internal people of hey, there's a peer or more junior people, and they don't report to you. But you just go, hey, how are you developing in this area? I have some skills that would be good. You start to learn how to do that. It's the same thing you're going to do as at least part of your management responsibilities. You also get to deal with the personnel challenges. Sometimes people have lives and need to work through that. That's a fun part of running a team. You could also start to get consultants to go, hey, I'm running part of this consulting initiative and I'm going to manage them to make sure it gets done. That is a very real application of it is, again, part of what you do in managing people.
Yeah.
So I think that can be helpful. And then what do you need to be like? What are our real priorities? The things I always walk into for any company is you might have a forecasting process. I've never seen anybody like it. I mean, like, who's doing what? Is it frontline manager calling a number? Is it an AE calling a number and we're aggregating everything? And then how close are we to that? At the end of the day, sales is about hitting a number, and how confident are you in actually hitting that number and standing in front of, if you're the CRO of the board, to go, we're going to do this thing, and your CEO. And if you can't do that, you get fired. It's very clearly I did or I didn't. It's black and white. And so when you see something like that and it's not confidence building, you go, okay, that's probably the top priority. And then you accordion out everything else and go, why can't we hit a forecast? Well, maybe we have a really bad process and it's super inaccurate. We somehow always hit the number. Let's say that's true. I've rarely seen that, but like, let's say that's real. But I'm never confident we're going to hit the number. We're always on one side or the other and we figure out how to make it. Okay, that's an actual process issue and it's probably a data issue too. And you got to dig in and figure that out and evaluate. What tools are you using? How are people doing this? More likely that is not the case. And it's upstream and go, okay, what is my pipeline? Do you know what your pipeline is? Is this real pipeline? I've seen so many deals that are in pipe where you're like, that's not a real deal. It's been kicked 4 times. Just kill it. Like, we don't need that deal. And you go, okay, what are the policies and parameters to do that? So you start to accordion out everything. And then do you understand what the forecast is? Meaning, is it an overall revenue forecast? Is it just for new logos? Because as you get into a bigger company, most of your revenues from existing customers, renewals, expansions, upsells. And I go, how good are you at that? Because if you get to work on part of how this works, I'm going to sit on the 70 to 80% of the revenue for most people, which is that number. Then the new logo, because everybody focuses a ton on that. So you go, you need to coach your leaders into that. Most of them are going to get it because you can't tackle all of what I just said and actually drive change. So you go, what can you actually take on? And you're going to be asked to do too many things. And then it's, what do we need to do with what people we have? And it gets into, okay, what levels do we have? Some of my first hires are, all right, you always need somebody that's keeping an eye on the CRM because that should be source of truth for people. How we get information in there, I think, should generally be automated at this point from a lot of, let's call them add-ons to that CRM to go, I don't want AEs typing much of anything. I want it all summarized for them, dumped in the CRM, and then have some type of confidence in the way their deals are progressing. The second hire, and make sure it's all instrumented properly and you can make updates. So I can go contractor, agency, consultant, or full-time person. As you get bigger, it's usually full-time person, and sometimes it's a team of full-time people as you get really big. The next person is usually analytics. You have to have some way of looking at your data, and you have to know the numbers well, and you have to be able to model things to go, okay, if we do X, Y, Z, this is what's going to happen. And it all goes back to that forecasting pipeline and confidence that you're going to hit a revenue number because that's what everybody cares about. Otherwise, a lot of people get fired from the company because you can't hit a number. Not just salespeople. Your job too, eventually, or sometimes sooner than later. Yeah, okay, that's number 2. And then it can be, okay, what type of business is it? What type of sales motions? Is it product-led? Is it sales-led? Is it partner? That is all very dependent on what you're doing. We're generally talking tech, but like that's for any business. Like, how does your business work? You need to know that in RevOps. You need to figure out how you make money, and you need to figure out how to help people replicate how you're making money while trying to decrease costs and drive collaboration across
Yeah,
each
I
of
think
the
that's a great thorough start for sure. So to kind of recap it to you, it's come in, understand, we're talking about how to get work done and how to resource it. Come in, understand all the priorities, which is probably going to be a lot. Focus in on kind of the first 2 or 3 that are most important, often forecasting or pipeline to your point. And from there, based on the type of work, that lends itself more to like an FTE or a consultant. I think you use like data cleanup as an example maybe for a consultant. Like, is that how you bucket like a consultant versus a full-time hire? Is like the maybe a specificity or of the work?
Yeah,
or?
usually the way I like to look at any consultant, I know fractional is becoming more popular. There are a number of agencies that are popular in the community. I think that's great. I look at it as, what do I need you to deliver? Can I tell you delivered it? And we're good. Maybe I want you again for something else, and it could be V2 of whatever we need, but it's like, I need XYZ from you, and part of this is I grew up at Accenture. That's how it works. It's a statement of work. We have these deliverables. Here are the people that did it. There were experts, air quotes, that did it. Some people actually were, most weren't. You're kind of learning as you go. And then you eventually become an expert later, which is great. And so when you look at things that way, I'm like, I want a finished product, whatever that thing is. It could be set of recommendations. I do that a ton right now in my business. Everybody wants assessment stuff. I think that's fine. I actually like to see something delivered because at the end of the day, I know the list of recommendations that people get handed. They're rarely actioned, or a portion of them are. You're like, oh, here's 55 recommendations. I go, you might do 5.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And probably not totally correct either.
No, totally. And so I'd rather have something delivered and be like, hey, we changed something, than go forward from there. So that's part of it. I know there are more, I'm going to come in and give you X hours. I'm going to come in and do XYZ for you in a recurring basis, X amount of hours a week, a month. I think things like that can be all right, particularly for smaller startups where like, I know I'm going to need this, but I can't spend the money to hire somebody internally. But generally, when people have that need, they just don't have the budget to hire somebody full-time that can be continually working on something. Yeah. And so that's mostly the way I look at consultants. I think they can be great for certain things, or it's like you actually have real expertise in some niche thing to go do XYZ, and I go, we don't, I need that from you. At this point, I think more and more people look at that and go, maybe true, but more likely you're going to go out to your network and kind of go, hey, what are people hearing about this? I was in a conversation last week about no one likes CPQ. Never ever heard that be a statement that anyone has ever made. That's fine. I think it's generally pricing and packaging issue in the quoting process more than the tool is terrible. And usually it's product catalog isn't actually in there right. No one's thought that through. But there was a conversation of like, you're going to go out to your network and go, what's a decent one? Like the amount of effort put into that is high, and you know it's going to touch every single one of your sellers. And so you're like, I need something that works that also isn't terrible to update and integrates fine. And so that matters a lot versus let me go bring in consultants to tell me about here's the different things. CPQ is going to be like, I don't think a lot of people need that anymore.
Yeah. What do you think, like, when is it the right time to bring on a tool? Or like, how do you think about tool selection? Like if a category of work is ripe to bring in a tool, because I think so often people have a problem, throw a tool at it, and it all fails because they haven't thought through it properly, right?
That's how it works every time. One, do you understand the process, whatever that thing is? So I'm like, let's talk CPQ for a minute. What's your quote to cash? You're like, okay, I'm getting through a deal. I have to rip a quote. The quote to cash cycle looks like it's way down the pipe because it's after an opportunity. You're like, no. People are ripping them out at disco because they're like, hey, what's pricing? You go, okay, what we talked about is this. And so one, understanding how the sales process actually works versus like in this customer life cycle, this is the way where you're like, that's not how it works at all.
That's a great point, yeah.
So what's your process? Is it repeatable? Like you have something and everybody's doing it that way. And by the way, segment wise, it might be a little bit different. Like I'm getting through an enterprise deal. This looks very different than an SMB. That's fine. But you're like, everybody goes through these steps and who you need to interact with is maybe different. Great. How much pain are you running into because you don't have XYZ tool? Like you need to be able to quote, but like putting it in some, spreadsheet and kicking it into a PDF, you're like, well, that terrifies me for many reasons. And you're like, oh, what are we doing for discounts? How do I track that? Is it actually getting back into the system? And so part of it is also risk of like, I'm willing to spend money to mitigate risk, but also show people these are the steps I need you to go through. Mm-hmm. And the reason CPQs aren't great is like, I'm just trying to do something super basic. You're like, no, I need you to fill out 18 things here. And he's like, no, I'm going to take I'm going to take the template pricing deck and I'm going to call it a quote and I'm just going to change numbers. By the way, that's not in our pricing guidelines. You can't get that discount. And then they're like, the customer goes, or the prospect goes, I already saw the price. We can get that. And they're like, no, you can't. It's going to get killed at the deal desk or you hope frontline manager, but that doesn't always happen. It's a whole other coaching thing. They have the hardest job there is, and they're the most important role, but it's tough. So it's like you have a process, it's repeatable, and it's causing you enough pain to be like, this is worth it. And it is valuable to centralize that data somehow to go, hey, what are we doing here? And usually we're negative margin on a chunk of deals. Like, how are these getting through? Or you're getting into, all right, we had a lot of legacy deals. We don't allow that anymore policy-wise. So how are we handling that? I need some way to make that work and to make it easy. CPQ is not that hard to argue with. It's the what, want, and all the work that would go into doing that correctly. But like a call intelligence is an easy one. Vast majority of people have that now. There's a bunch of small startups. There's a bunch of like AI tools that people are just kind of making work. There's the big ones like a Gong or something like that. And I go, great, that's table stakes. I want to actually know how people are communicating in any type of call with prospects or customers. That's critical. The part that I think can get missed is, okay, am I giving them to some of the cheapest resources if you haven't, not hired any and done the AI version of SDRs? Am I giving them to that? How are we handling that? We did it DocuSign. I don't know where that's at anymore. I've been gone a couple years, but I'm like, I don't know if they still do. Those licenses aren't necessarily cheap, but I think it's valuable. Sales always gets it. And I go, the thing that gets missed is success. Mm-hmm. They're driving like your account management and your CSMs, and you're like, you're the vast majority of revenue. I want to know what customers are actually saying to you. One, if you have the CSM model, they're generally more trusted because they're trying to drive adoption and not sell stuff. I think most people may have that title, but aren't doing that role anymore. They hold a gross or net retention number, and then we're back in sales mode, regardless of them owning an upsell or expansion number. It's just like, I got to make sure I hit whatever that net retention is. And you go, that is more valuable to me than most things, because that can go all the way back to product of like what feature set she's looking at. Yeah. And so that's great. That's step one of like, I can look at stuff. The V1s of it, where here's a bunch of information. And I'm like, great, I want to now take that and put it in the CRM to be like, what are our next steps? Did we hit whatever methodology we're using? I don't want reps entering anything in other than, hey, I want to put a note to myself to look at whatever, that's fine. I want them to flag things. Eventually, I want that to go away and go, they weren't ready yet for XYZ upsell or expansion. I want to create, generally a lead, because it can't be in pipe. Like, I'm going to hit them next quarter or 2 quarters. And be like, hey, let's have this conversation again. How's it going? What's the reminder? And I have not found people are great at that. They're kind of like, okay, I take a note, and it just goes into a black hole that they have to remember. Eventually, I hope that goes away. So that's an easy one where you go, I need that, but I actually need it to be leveraged into a system. And why I need it in the CRM is I want multiple people to be able to look at it and go, oh, marketing can pick up something from that and go, oh, let me do a marketing campaign to make them aware of, we have a feature releasing in 3 months. So I'm going to hit you then and go, hey, that'll lead up to that expansion deal that we're hoping we could do. I can get something on success to go, something came up in the sales call of like, hey, you actually need to know this in your QBR coming up. And then particularly an aggregate for any leaders. And as RevOps, you're like, what's going on with the business and how is it working? And then what do we need to do to model the most successful customers and reps we have and replicate it of like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's great. I think this should be obvious, but I don't think, maybe people all know it deep down, but it gets lost so often with tool purchases. So just to recap, it's one, make sure you're solving a real business problem. That's table stakes. I think most people get that right. But two, make sure you actually know like how you want to solve it. Like, what is your process? Is it adopted? Does it actually work for you guys? So I think like a good piece of advice I've heard is like do an MVP that's kind of like manual. Maybe if we're talking forecasting, it's in Sheets first, then you move to a Clary or something like that. And then once you have all that down and you know the ideal state, you can then roll out a tool to make sure that you get compliance across. And then the other side is just collecting data in a way that maybe you technically can't do it otherwise, which is the other example as well. So I think that's a good kind of encapsulation. Josh, we're almost at time here. I want to cover one more thing. So I think as part of, again, accomplishing work as a leader of a RevOps team, we talked about FTEs, consultants, tools. Switching gears slightly, but still related, like, as you think about building a team or learning about tools, like, you personally do a pretty good job of, like, staying involved in the RevOps community. So I'm curious, like, I've had some people ask me, like, what's the best way to get involved? Like, maybe to start, like, why do you think it's important to kind of stay abreast of the community? Like, what are your goals as you do that?
One, it's good to be networked for perhaps hearing about different opportunities and also hearing about what's going on at different companies. A bunch of people, particularly now, are trying to solve things the same problems, but maybe very differently of like, oh, we've, to your point, tried tools and you're like, we're figuring this thing out, or I just saw a fun post today and I'll pick on Clay because everybody loves them, where Clay is super expensive. If you don't know how to use it, you're going to smoke all your credits and have to pay more. And you're re-enriching everything every single time you touch it because people probably don't know how to set that up. You can go find somebody that tries to know how to do that workflow correctly and enrich properly and all those triggers correctly. Most people aren't doing that. They're building their own. And question mark on if everybody actually that says they're an expert is anyway.
Big question mark.
Going back to the consulting lens. And so I find one, trying to stay involved is super helpful, particularly with more senior people. Love talking with junior people too and mentoring. Senior people, like, what's going on? And then you also start to go, okay, what's going on at these companies that maybe are interesting if you want to work there full time, if you want to try and get a consulting gig. I mean, like, what's really going on there? How's it work? Have you heard good things? So introduction wise. And then additionally, I think it's important just to like keep a pulse on things of, I live in the Bay. I think it's great. There's a lot of energy around RevOps. There are places that aren't as much, and so you go maybe feel a little bit more lonely if you're in Chicago where I used to live. And I go, yeah, there's some roles there, but there's way less. And you go, well, what's available? How does this work? Who can I even talk to try and understand what I'm getting into? And I think about what I've done in my career. I've at least tried to find people who would, if it's not formal mentorship, at least help with information of like, I'm trying to get over to here. How does this work? And there might be multiple paths. I've done my career in a way that I just kind of figured it out. So I went from consulting background and it's some type of strategy and operations, but it was very process heavy. And then went and worked at McKesson. And then went to a startup because it's the Bay, you got to do that, and more on the success side. And went back to consulting where I did a lot more, let's call it like pure RevOps work. And then went in ServiceNow and was in BizOps, which is a flavor, but some extra on top of it. And then went back to consulting and did some more RevOps, and then went to DocuSign and have been doing, very clearly RevOps work in the wheelhouse. While doing that, I'm like, network wasn't the best. It was way harder to get anybody to look at me. And then on top of it, to be able to talk to people of like, if you have a small network, everybody might have the same answer. And I don't know if that's entirely correct. I'd rather have a wider array.
Yeah.
And then additionally, I think it's helpful to look at, like, picking on Clay, because everybody loves them right now, to go, is this real? Like, is this actually happening? Mm-hmm. And because I'm in the Bay, I'm used to hype cycles where everyone's like, this is the most amazing thing. And then you pick your head up in a couple of years and you go, what happened to it? And you go, I don't know. And so I think RevOps as a career is very good as like, this is good. The different pieces that I'm starting to see if people pick at, we'll see what proves out. And then additionally, how you go about it. There are a number of larger RevOps groups. I Google them to start of like, what the heck's out there? Let me just go sign up for these Slack groups and see. Some of them I'm still not part of where I'm like, I at least know people and maybe go to an event or a holiday party has been nice. And where you start to maybe say, this seems fine, I'm good, is you start to say a lot of the same people at the different events. And you're like, all right, like we're all in the same thing. It doesn't matter. The thing that I've enjoyed most is honestly Account Aim's mentorship program of like, I've met some people that were at the director level that one, I didn't know. And then two, did seem decently connected, but they really want to talk about like, what do we do at director, trying to get promotions, or I've been in a startup for years. It's kind of a terminal role. I don't know how to flex this into something else. And so I enjoy the coaching aspect. So I've started to lean into that. And I've also figured out through getting involved in the community of like where I don't want to spend time. I went to an event last night. I will not name it or pick on them, but it was part of a few startups put something on for Inbound because it's in San Francisco. So that's HubSpot's big conference. And so it was related to it. And I went and it was mostly the sales and marketing people of those 4 startups. Yeah, and they're nice enough people. And I talked to them for a minute. I met one cool RevOps person that I hadn't met before, that we knew some of the same people and just had never seen him. And that was nice. Like talked for, 20, 30 minutes, had real conversation about kind of, he was at a director level and I go, okay, what's going on? But the rest of it was kind of, okay. And I left, halfway through, just like, this isn't what I'm looking for. I'd much rather go into my level, like, here's a dinner and we can actually speak versus a loud bar.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think it's good advice too. And I really like when you're talking about like the benefits of like why you stay involved in the community. It actually reminded me of a class from the beginning of undergrad, sociology. I'm not a sociology major, but the strength of weak ties, or the importance of weak ties, was the concept. And it's like people were more successful in their careers when they knew more people actually more shallowly than people that had really deep connections but a smaller overall network, which you almost wouldn't expect. But to your point, you get the differences of opinions, you can connect different kind of ideas or get more chains of connection, and it actually goes a long way. So I think you summarized it pretty well there.
Yeah. It's mostly around who would hire you.
Yeah.
Like, that's usually why you're networking. Like, who would hire you? Like, all right, go find them. And if you're in a situation where you're like, I'm not finding a lot of those people, I'm like, oh, maybe it's not a good use of your time.
Yeah. Well, cool, Josh. Also, I appreciate the shout out for RevOps Connect, our mentorship community. Listeners, we did not pay Josh to say that, but he is one of our most liked mentors. So I'm glad that you're also enjoying it too. If you're listening, interested in getting paired one-to-one with a mentor, feel free to contact me or head to the Accounting site. Josh, sadly, we're out of time. This is awesome. I think it's a really good walkthrough of like how you think about resourcing, getting work done, networking, value of it. Really grateful for you coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, James. Love being here.